Story 1.
I got back to the dorm 5 days before the end of my holiday, expecting some chill time and a bit of prep. What I got instead was a nightmare that's going to stick with me forever. It was past midnight when I pulled into the dorm's deserted parking lot. Snow crunched under my boots, the sound sharp in the quiet. I hauled my bag from the trunk, my breath fogging in the chill. The door of the dorm creaked as I entered, echoing off the empty walls. "Hello?" I called, but only silence greeted me. The door to my supposed room was open. I hesitated at the threshold. It was too quiet. "Anyone there?" No reply. I edged inside. In my room, I flicked the light switch, but darkness held on. "Great," I grumbled, fumbling for a flashlight. The beam cut across the room, landing on a bed that wasn't mine. Clothes were scattered around. Must be a mix-up, the flashlight revealing my unmade bed. I settled in, uneasy. I woke to a tapping at the window. I pulled back the curtain. Nothing but the night. Heart pounding, I tried to sleep, but then tap, tap, tap. I yelled, "Cut it out!" Silence. I stared at the glass until dawn, but the tapping had stopped. The next day, I told the janitor about these events. He frowned. "You're in the right room," he said, looking worried. By then, I just wanted some grub, but my footsteps in the dining hall echoed alone. Surely someone else must be here, I thought. As I headed back that evening, a snowman stood by the dorm entrance, its carrot nose crooked. I hadn't seen it before. Kids on campus? I guessed, shaking off a chill that wasn't from the cold. That night, I heard whispers. I pressed my ear to the wall, heart thudding. The whispers stopped as suddenly as they'd started. "Who's there?" I asked, voice louder than I meant. Only my echo came back. Morning light did nothing to warm up the place. The halls felt too big. I saw footsteps in the snow outside leading away. I followed, hoping for someone else, but they just vanished halfway to the woods. Later, the dining hall's lights flickered as I ate. A shadow passed the window. I jumped up, dropping my fork with a clang that seemed too loud. "Who's there?" No one answered. Come nightfall, the snowman had moved closer to the building. I could have sworn its coal black eyes followed me. I locked my door that night, heart hammering in my chest. I was dozing when a thump jolted me awake. "Who's there?" I said, but dared not open my door. I heard footsteps fade down the hall. I spent the rest of the night with my back against the door, listening. By day, things seemed normal, but I felt eyes on me. The janitor avoided me, mumbling to himself. When I asked about the noises, he just shook his head and hurried off. That afternoon, while walking past the lounge, I saw the snowman again. Right outside the lounge window, its smile now wide and grotesque. "Gotta be a joke," I muttered, but my voice betrayed my fear. In my room, I found the closet door ajar. I'd left it shut. I checked inside. Nothing. My heart wouldn't quit racing, and I couldn't warm up, no matter how high I cranked the heat. Evening brought another surprise. My door was open when I returned from the empty dining hall. I know I locked it. I stood there, staring at the gap. Was someone in there? I thought of the janitor. Did he come in? This night I hardly slept, flinching at any sound. "This place is messing with me," I kept repeating. I firmly decided to go to my relatives in the city. In the morning I packed hastily, the quiet pounding in my ears. As I left my room, I felt that feeling again, the eyes on me. I didn't look back. I passed the empty dining hall, the silence like a weight. Something moved at the edge of my vision, but I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The snowman was gone when I passed the window, vanished without a trace. I drove away from the dorm, glancing in the rear-view mirror. The parking lot was empty. The snowman was just there, in the middle of it, watching me leave. I didn't stop. Didn't look back. Just drove until the dorm was a dot in the distance and then nothing at all.
Story 2.
I never should have walked into that old antique store off Main Street, but the blizzard outside gave me little choice. The warmth inside revealed an old box that seemed to whisper my name. A simple, dark wood thing with carvings I couldn't quite understand. I asked the old man at the counter about it, and with a hesitant glance he said it was from some estate sale, belonged to a family with a history of tragedy and oddness. I bought this old box, thinking it would be a great addition to my collection of curios, but here's what happened next. As I walked home, the snow seemed to quiet the world around me, but inside I felt a growing unease, a sense that I was not alone. I told myself it was just the wind, but when I got home and placed the box on my shelf, I swear I heard a faint, almost inaudible sigh. I laughed it off, made myself dinner, and went to bed, leaving the box in the living room. That night, the dreams started. They were vivid and disturbing, filled with shadows and a persistent, maddening whispering. I woke up in a cold sweat, the house silent except for the wind outside. I tried to shake off the dreams, blaming the strange box and my overactive imagination, but as I passed the living room, I couldn't help but feel the box was watching me, its dark carving seeming to shift in the dim light. Days passed and the unease grew. Objects in my home started to move just slightly, as if they had been touched or pushed. I would find the box open on several occasions, though I was sure I had closed it. Friends came over and commented on the chill in the air, the sense that something was not quite right. I laughed it off, telling them it was just the old house, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that was growing inside me. Then one night everything changed. I was alone, the town quiet after another snowstorm. I heard a noise downstairs, a soft thumping, like someone gently knocking on wood. I went to the living room, and there was the box, lid open, a darkness inside that seemed deeper than should be possible. I reached out, compelled by some unknown force, and the moment I touched it, the room grew colder, the air heavy with the scent of something ancient and rotten. I tried to get rid of it, tried to leave it outside, but it would always come back, appearing on my shelf as if it had never left. The dreams grew worse, filled with images of a dark, twisted forest and a shadowy figure that seemed to beckon me deeper into the trees. I could hear whispers in my home, always just out of reach, always just indecipherable enough to keep me straining to understand. I called the old man at the antique store, desperate for answers, but the number was disconnected. The store closed. I went there, but the place was empty, as if it had been abandoned for years. No one in town remembered it, or if they did, they wouldn't speak of it. I was alone, with no one to help, no one who understood. The box became my obsession. I couldn't leave it alone, couldn't stop thinking about it. My research dug into the local history, looking for any mention of the family the old man had spoken of, any clue as to what the box was. But there was nothing, just a growing list of dead ends and unanswered questions. Then one night it all came to a head. I heard the whispering again, louder this time, more insistent. I followed it to the living room, to the box. The lid was open, and the darkness inside pulsed like a heartbeat. The whispers became a voice, a single clear word repeated over and over. Come. I don't remember walking to the box, don't remember reaching out, but I do remember the cold that spread through my body, the sense of falling into the darkness. I remember the feeling of hands cold and clammy, pulling me down, and then nothing. I woke up on the floor, the box closed, the room silent. I was alone, but I could feel something had changed. The air was different, heavier, as if something had settled in, made itself at home. I tried to move the box, to throw it away, but I couldn't. It was as if it was a part of the house now, a part of me. I don't know what the box is, don't know what it wants, but I know I can't get rid of it, know that it has marked me in some way. I hear the whispers all the time now, feel the cold grip of those unseen hands. I am afraid to sleep, afraid of what I might find in the darkness of my dreams. I write this as a warning. If you find an old box, a curious thing that seems to call to you, walk away. Do not let curiosity lead you down the path I have walked. There are things in this world that are better left alone, secrets that are better left undiscovered. Ye have learned that the hard way, and now I must live with the consequences. As for the box, it sits on my shelf, silent and waiting. I don't know what it's waiting for, but I fear I will find out soon enough. And when I do, I fear it will be too late. For me, for all of us.
Story 3.
I never believed in curses or hauntings until I took the night shift as a security guard at Denny's discount store. It seemed like a straightforward job at first, just me, the aisles of odd, unsold items, and the quiet hum of the air conditioning. But then, I discovered a hidden logbook filled with the scrawled entries of previous guards behind a pile of bizarre unsold Halloween merchandise. The logbook detailed unsettling occurrences, eerie figures seen in the CCTV, unexplainable sounds, and each entry ended with the guard either quitting out of fear or mysteriously going missing. Skepticism was my initial reaction. I chuckled at the notion of a haunted store, imagining it was a tradition to spook the new guy. But as days turned into weeks, strange things began happening that I couldn't laugh off. One night, while patrolling the toy aisle, a Halloween mask inexplicably shattered on the floor in front of me. Its eyes seemed to pierce through me, sending an unshakable chill down my spine. I replaced it on the shelf, trying to convince myself it was just a freak accident. But incidents like this became increasingly frequent. I'd hear whispers when the store was empty, feel sudden cold drafts, or find items misplaced in impossible ways. The more I read the logbook, the more my experiences began to mirror the eerie tales inked in its pages. I brought it up to my manager, but he dismissed it as tricks of the light or my imagination running wild from too many quiet nights. But incidents like this became increasingly frequent. I'd hear whispers when the store was empty, feel sudden cold drafts, or find items misplaced in impossible ways. The more I read the logbook, the more my experiences began to mirror the eerie tales inked in its pages. I brought it up to my manager, but he dismissed it as tricks of the light or my imagination running wild from too many quiet nights. I started to feel a pervasive dread each time I clocked in for my shift. The store felt different, almost as if it were alive, aware of my every move. One particularly cold night in January, things reached a boiling point. The lights flickered more aggressively, the whispers turned into low mocking laughter, and the temperature dropped until I could see my breath clouding in the air. I tried to escape to the security room, but found myself locked out, trapped in the dark with the unseen force. The air was thick with malice, and the store itself seemed to be closing in on me. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and I felt something brush against me. Panicked, I fled down the aisles, but no matter where I ran, I felt it right behind me, its presence suffocating. I called out, demanding to know what it wanted, but received no answer other than the continued, eerie laughter. In my desperation, I found myself at the center of the store where the Halloween items were displayed. They had been rearranged into a sinister pattern, a circle with the old logbook lying open in the middle. As I approached, a new entry seemed to write itself on the blank page: leave and never return. The message was clear, and a primal fear urged me to heed its warning. I sprinted for the exit, flung open the doors, and spilled out into the cold night, never once looking back. I handed in my resignation the following day, unable to fully articulate the horror of what I'd experienced. The store remained a brooding presence in my life, an unsolved mystery that whispered to me in quiet moments. The events of those nights lingered in my mind. The fear has never fully left me, and sometimes in the stillness of the night, I hear the whispers again, feel the cold drafts, and see shadows flickering at the edge of my vision. The store and its unknown entity remain a haunting enigma, a chilling reminder of the night when I faced the inexplicable. And now I understand why the previous guards left the way they did, disappearing into the night, their stories unfinished, their fates unknown. I was lucky to escape, but the mystery of what haunts Denny's discount store remains, an ever-present shadow in the back of my mind.
Story 4.
Every night I waited alone at the desolate bus stop, but that January night felt different. The air was colder, the darkness thicker, and the silence was broken only by my own shallow breaths. I was a college girl, used to the quiet campus outskirts, but something about that night set every nerve on edge. I tried to ignore the creeping dread, telling myself stories of the day's events to pass the time. But then, a sudden chill ran down my spine, not from the winter air, but from the feeling of being watched. I scanned the empty street and saw nothing but the dim light of the bus stop flickering overhead. Minutes dragged on, and the anticipated bus was nowhere in sight. The normalcy of my routine was shattered when a group of loud, rowdy individuals turned the corner. They were the sort of hooligans you'd cross the street to avoid, laughing menacingly amongst themselves, and I realized I was completely alone with them. As they approached, their shadows elongated by the streetlights, I felt a tightness in my chest. Their eyes were on me, a mix of malice and curiosity. I stood as still as possible, hoping to appear uninteresting, but their course didn't falter. They circled me like wolves, taunts and jeers floating through the air. My heart raced, and I searched desperately for an escape, but the night offered no refuge. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the air shifted and an inexplicable coldness swept through the bus stop. The hooligans suddenly stopped, their laughter dying on their lips. We all turned to the new figure approaching, a girl, no older than I, her steps silent against the pavement. Something was off about her. Her clothes outdated, her skin unnaturally pale. The gang's leader stepped forward, but the girl didn't flinch. Instead, she locked eyes with him, and he stopped dead in his tracks, his face draining of color. The others backed away, murmuring amongst themselves. She moved past them, directly toward me. Her eyes met mine, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, yet I couldn't move. "Leave this place," she whispered, her voice echoing strangely in the night. Before I could respond, she turned and walked into the darkness, the hooligans trailing after her like lost puppies. I was left alone, shaken, not sure if what I'd experienced was real. The bus finally arrived, and I boarded without looking back. The next day, I researched the history of that bus stop, only to find a string of unsolved disappearances and strange sightings, all linked to January nights. No one knew who the girl was or what became of those who followed her. The mystery remained, wrapped in cold, silent darkness. I never waited at that bus stop again, and every January I remember the girl and the chilling fear she brought with her. The events of that night linger in my mind, an unresolved enigma that whispers to me whenever the winter air turns frigid and the night closes in.